Hey everybody, welcome back. This is our first flight in Sim Update 2 Beta version 1.4.9.0. This is the second Sim Update 2 Beta release. We're going to do a little hop from Princess Juliana down to St. Eustatius. But before we do that, I'm going to show you a couple of interesting things in the new Sim Update 2. First of all, of great consequence to us, and credit must be given where credit is due to Asobo for doing this. You come here into the keyboard and search pre-flight. You will find this mysterious new setting called Quick Pre-Flight. And I have set it to Shift plus C, which is the standard setting to get in and out of the airplane in the sim. But what we do get now with Quick Pre-Flight is you skip the pre-flight. It takes the chocks, the engine covers, the pitot heat covers, all that stuff gets taken off the airplane and you just hop into the airplane, which is what I've been doing for the last 5 months or whatever it's been, 4 months with Walk Around Manager. Now we can actually do this with a simple key combo in the sim. So thank you for Asobo for getting rid of the walk around for those of us who have no interest in doing it. That's a great update. The next thing that is of interest to us, and I'm not quite sure what the answer here is, there is a new frame generation option. So I'm running the frame gen mod and I have NVIDIA DLSS frame gen. If you click here to the right, we now get AMD FSR3, which I don't have. I have an NVIDIA 3080 Ti graphics card. So the question is, can we now use AMD frame gen on NVIDIA graphics cards in the sim as standard? For those of you who don't know, the difference between NVIDIA DLSS frame gen and AMD frame gen, NVIDIA frame gen is hardware based, AMD frame gen is software based, which is the reason why we can use the frame gen mod to use the software-based AMD frame gen with NVIDIA graphics cards. Now, if it is true that they have turned on AMD frame gen for everybody in the sim, that would be fantastic news. We don't have to fiddle with the frame gen mod anymore. That would essentially be Asobo kind of waving the white flag and saying, okay, we know you can set up frame gen, AMD frame gen using this mod. We're just going to give it to you without having to bother with that, which would be wonderful. I have to go through the process of uninstalling the frame gen mod and then trying to see whether this AMD frame gen works. Haven't done that yet, but I will, so look forward to that in a future video. I also want to show you my graphics settings here just so you can see them. I do have the dynamic settings turned off. I just want to show you base Sim Update 2 beta performance here today. So these are my standard settings. Terrain level of detail, and I usually do run the auto FPS program. I'm not going to run that either today. Terrain level of detail 205. See, all this stuff is, well, not all of it, but some ultra and high settings here. Object level of detail 150. Volumetric clouds I have on ultra. These are the things that are very important to me. Obviously, water waves flying in the Caribbean is very important to me, so that's on high. And you come down here, I've got shadow maps, terrain maps, all this stuff here. Motion blur turned off, depth of field ultra, light shafts off. And then the rest of kind of the traffic and air and road and sea traffic on medium. So we'll save that and go back. And now we'll load into the flight and we'll head down from Juliana to St. Eustatius. All right, so here we are in Princess Juliana. We're in the Black Box Islander, and this doesn't have the walk around feature, so it's kind of a bad plane to demo this on. But if I just hit Shift C, what you would do in any other Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 aircraft, you would get into the cockpit and all of your, as I said, engine covers and so on and so forth would be removed. However, because I'm in this plane, I have this setting over here. We're going to turn all this off. The next thing we're going to do is put up our statistical display here as we get ready for our flight. And now let's get ready for our flight here. We'll go external power supply on, rotating beacon on, mixtures and props. We'll go full forward. Master and battery switches on. We'll open the fuel valves. We'll turn the fuel pumps on. Mags coming on. Open the starter cover, take a look outside, make sure there's nobody outside to kill or maim, and there is not. Toes on the brakes, and we will go right engine first. There's a good start. Let's check the oil pressure. Oil pressure's coming up. Left prop is clear. Left engine, good start. Oil pressure is coming up. Let's close the starter hood cover. Fuel pump's coming off. Check our fuel pressures. Fuel pressures looks fine. Avionics master coming on. Nav and strobe lights coming on. And let's get over here and set this stuff up. We'll go transponder squawk altitude. And we are going to set the radios here once we get the 118, what is it, 118, 1017, excuse me, on the altimeter here. Trying to get back into the habit of doing some things manually instead of letting the sim do everything. And that looks just fine. That looks fine. So we're gonna go 118.7, which is our CTAF here. CTAF is now the thing on VATSIM, which is really pretty cool, actually. I mean, it's a little bit more, makes things a little bit more complicated, makes things a little bit more realistic as well. So 122.8 in the backup, 118.7 we've got now. Alright. And everything is looking good. If this was a real airplane, you just put an in-op sticker over that, because otherwise on a proficiency check, you might have to be forced to use it, which would not be good. So, alright, let's lean the mixtures for taxi. External power supply coming off. You have to turn that switch on no matter whether you have external power or not. Normally you don't, obviously. Juliana traffic, Winair 501, taxiing from the Charlie ramp to runway 10 via Charlie. Excuse me, yeah, via Charlie, Princess Juliana. Great radio call, Mike. Well, nice job to start off with. As soon as you get rolling, you got to check your brakes, make sure your brakes are working, and mine are. So looks like altimeter setting of 1017 has us at a little bit below sea level, you can see here. But as long as your altimeter setting gives you an altitude within 75 feet of field elevation, you are good to go. Got some one of the things that I think could nicely be changed here in Flight Sim 24 is getting rid of the static aircraft when you're flying, like for example on VATSIM, or using live traffic. Even if you're using live players, for example, and you're not you're using live players, so you're seeing the other live aircraft in the sim. You are also seeing static aircraft at gates, which I don't think is ideal. Let's go notch of flaps here. I'm gonna hold short. Make sure we're all ready to go here. Alright, holding short now. Alright, let's make sure everything's set. We got our fuel pumps coming on. Flaps are set. Trim is set for takeoff. I see that right there. Radios are set. The we're heading at heading of, well, it's not telling us, but it's southerly heading. We'll just kind of tune this here. And actually what I can do is set the CDI to the GPS, and we'll set this to about a southerly heading, and we'll see what we get once we take off. It should have given us a message to tell us what the heading was, but it didn't, so we'll see. Take a look down. Final is looking clear. Runway is looking clear in both directions. Mixtures and props full forward. Fuel pumps are on. Flaps are set. Seatbelts are secure. Pre-takeoff checklist complete. Princess Juliana traffic. Winair 501 departing runway 10 right, crosswind departure to the south. Princess Juliana. That one was a little better. I'm self-critical of my radio calls. So far the performance has been flawless, and guess what? I fully expect it to stay there. Using the latest NVIDIA driver 572.83, and we'll get out on centerline here. Very nice day here in the Caribbean. A little bit windy. Winds are 09015 here. Alright, heading indicator checks with the runway number. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments are in the green. Airspeed is alive. Accelerating normally. 70 knots. Let's go flying. Alright. That is looking nice right there. Alright. Power back to 25. We'll bring the props back to 2500. 90 knots is fine for right now. Look at this little localized shower right here. How cool is that? How cool is that? And beautiful departure here out of St. Martin. One more good picture here without the stats overlay. Alright, stats are coming back. I get back in the aircraft. We've got 1,000 feet, so we'll turn our fuel pumps off. Check our fuel pressure, and we'll talk about fuel pumps and fuel pressure here in a second. Keep an eye on the manifold pressure in the climb. Bring those flaps up as well. Pitch over to 100 knots. St. Eustatius dead ahead. What a cool little localized shower here. How neat is that? I think that's pretty fun. I'm entertained by the small things in life nowadays. So, alright, flaps are up, fuel pumps are off. Power is set, and you can see we're getting those little, look at this, little localized shower. That is awesome. Because you get those all over the Caribbean. So I mean that is truly realistic. And I really enjoy that. That is cool stuff. Really cool stuff. And let's see here. We get another picture. That is so neat. Alright, so let's keep bringing the power up here in the climb. Everything's looking good. Engine instruments are looking good. Let's get a little bit of rudder trim in here. So, first impressions of Sim Update 2 Beta. So this is the second release, and there's a reason why I generally speaking wait for the second release before I join a beta. Not always, but you know, when you get towards like 3,500 feet is gonna be fine for this flight. When you get towards you you know, a more mature sim like Flight Sim 2020, when you got to like sim update 12, 13, 14, generally speaking, those sim updates are not going to be introducing huge new features. You know, not just listening for the engines to the props there to balance out. You know, you're not getting big new feature introductions. You're not getting you know, major updates, major changes. So those early betas tend to be okay. This is sim update 2 for Flight Sim 2024, and it's a big update. I mean, there's a lot of changes, a lot of performance related changes, and so you can expect the first beta release to be maybe a bit squirrely, and the second one is generally much improved. I would have joined the first one if the first one was still running right now, but it's not. So I hadn't joined yet prior to today because of I was previewing the Aerosoft CRJ, and which is released today. Very cool airplane. I hope you guys go out and get it because it's a great airplane. I enjoyed V1. They've done anybody who says like, oh, they just updated the, you know, the textures and it's the same airplane, it's not the same airplane. They've done a massive behind the scenes upgrade to that plane. The textures are different. The textures are new. Airplane looks great. A lot of avionics updates, systems updates. The airplane is really nice. So you can see here where my monitor refresh rate is 60, so we're pegged right at 60 with frame gen, albeit. But look at my GPU utilization. You can say, look, you know, you're in an area where there's no scenery. What do you expect? Well, you know, this is what I normally fly, and you know, somebody else will take you in an A350 into JFK in this beta. It's not going to be me. But I kind of feel like almost an innate sense nowadays of like kind of instantly whether a driver is going to be any good or whether it's going to be problematic. Just check my throttle settings there. You know, whether a driver is going to be good, whether a sim update's going to be good. And the performance here is just fine. I mean, it really is. GPU and CPU utilizations are you know, as you can see, quite low, really. No hits to the FPS, 1% low, which is the number that tells us if we're having any stutters. So performance-wise, we're looking real good at this point. Take a look outside here. There's Saba off in the distance. St. Bart's over there. Can't help but take one more screenshot. So airplane is flying very well. I always find that a weird when people sell airplanes in real life. You'll read in the ad, like a lot of the ads will say flies really well, like as opposed to what? I mean, it's an airplane, you know. Like I'm generally expecting the airplane to fly pretty nicely. You know, this one doesn't fly very well. It's a little draggy. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, we'll go 122.8. 118.1 is the CTAF down here at St. Eustatius, locally known as Statia. One of the cooler little airports in the sim. I'm a big fan. I've been asked a couple times lately to do an updated version. I did a video in of Flight Sim 2020 and like cool airports in the Caribbean. I will redo that and I'll update it for Sim Update or for Flight Sim 2024. Flight Sim 24 is my go-to sim now. I fly Flight Sim 2020 when I have group flights. I don't even really fly it for jets anymore. I mean, there's until they square away these any builds, or in the case that my credit card gets the itch for buying the Phoenix, which I like the any builds Airbuses. I like them. They've done a nice job with the airplanes. The flight plan integration, sim brief integration, all that stuff is fantastic. They hand fly nicely. They're cool airplanes. I like them. They crash. The avionics crash on almost every flight, and it's just such a shame that they haven't made it. But so there are some WASM updates for Sim Update 2 Beta, and I'm really hoping that this is going to mean perhaps we get functional aircraft here in 2024 from the any builds. Gosh, what a beautiful day down here. So we're about 10 miles to the north. Switch over to 118.1. Altimeter down here, at least last I looked, was 1018. We'll change that. Alright. And we'll bring the power back here a little bit. Station traffic, Win Air 501, about 10 miles to the north, inbound runway 07, Station. So this is a freeware airport that we're flying into, a freeware 2020 airport that I have not sort of pre-tested for this flight, but it's one of my favorites. It's a very nicely done freeware airport, but it's just, the station is a neat I don't know what it is that I like about it. It's right in the valley between that bigger hill there to the far side and the smaller hills here to the north end of the island. But it's just a cool airport. I don't know, I find it neat. So we'll see what we get here. Performance is very, very good. So next up for me is going to be getting into the VR experience here in Flight Sim 24. They have updated VR with foveated rendering, which I know you guys are just itching for. I know you've been sitting there thinking, when is foveated rendering coming? Well, foveated rendering is here. Foveated rendering in VR is so the fovea of your eyes, your vision is not as clear in your peripheral vision as it is in the center of your vision. You just don't notice it because you know your center of your vision is obviously your focus. You look to if you kind of pay attention to your peripheral vision, the things that are there are not as sharp as when you actually look at them. And that's the same principle that foveated rendering uses in VR. It lowers the resolution of things in your periphery to give you better performance. You're not looking at them anyway. And from my understanding thus far, the implementation is rather conservative in the early going, which is fine. I mean, you kind of expect that. But the performance in the VR performance in Flight Sim 2020 is not good. In 2024 is not good. In 2020 it's fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to getting better performance in Sim Update 2 here in Flight Sim 24, because the flight model is just so much better in Flight Sim 2024. Take a look down final. We'll make sure there's nothing out there. Make sure we got our landing light on, which we don't. Should have had on. Go fuel pumps on. Oh, I was going to talk about fuel pumps. So the reason we turn our fuel pumps on for takeoff and landing, you got 2 fuel pumps in these IO360s, Lycoming IO360s. Your engine-driven fuel pumps, which are running obviously anytime your engines are running, and these electric fuel pumps, which is what these switches are. Station traffic, Win Air 501, 3 mile left base, runway 07 station. I hope it's 07, by the way. It's 6, runway 6. Now that I look at it. But you turn on the electric fuel pumps for takeoff and landing in case the engine-driven fuel pump fails. In which case, the electric fuel pump will keep fuel flow to the engines. Fuel flow to the engines is very good. One of my favorite things. Alright, we'll go first notch of flaps. Coming down here a little bit. That is the oil terminal, which is really nicely modeled. So we'll check out a freeware scenery here. We'll see how we do. In Flight Sim 24. Really pretty island. It's a very pretty approach. See the field coming into view there. Alright, we are in the White Arc. It's trimmed for 80 knots. Station traffic, Win Air 501, turning at 2 mile final for 06 station. Alright, fuel pumps are on, flaps are set. The flap indication is wrong, they're down. We'll go mixtures and props full forward. And I don't want to get any lower than we are, nor any slower than we are, so we'll bring in some power here. And we've got a little bit of definitely a little bit of more than a little bit of a right crosswind. You can feel that, geez. Alright, let's get a little bit more aggressive getting over in center line here. Alright, so there's center line. this is not a pretty approach on my part. Yeah, it's a little bit better. This is a flat, I hate flat approaches. My least favorite way to approach an airport. It's a terrible, flat approach is poor technique, it really is. It really is. I'd much rather be high than low. Alright. Field is looking great. Pull in a little bit of trim here. See how our crosswind landings are doing today. Power coming out. Power's all the way out. Crosswind landing was okay. Would have been even better if I was on center line. It's always better when you're on center line. But keep our crosswind correction in until we are parked. Statia traffic, wind air 501, back taxiing runway 6, Statia. So, keep that left crosswind correction in now. The only thing I'll do on the runway is lean the mixtures, and that's because if you don't lean the mixtures, your spark plugs can foul, and that is no good either. If your spark plugs get fouled, you can experience a loss of engine power. Loss of engine power is no good. So there's some pink textures over there, some things I can see. But again, this is a Flight Sim 2020 scenery, but this is a freeware scenery. Wait until you see this. Wait until you see how good this is. I can let that crosswind correction out now that I'm into the wind here. I'm gonna go park front and center over here, and I'll show you how good this freeware scenery is. And the point of today's flight was to check the performance of Sim Update 2 Beta 1.4.90, and it is perfectly fine, as I fully expected that it would be. You've got some reports of people having poor performance in Sim Update 2 Beta, and you know, there are so many variables, it's really kind of hard to pin down what might be the case. Let's see, throttles are idle, mixtures to idle cutoff. We'll set the parking brake, turn the lights off. Fuel pumps are off, flaps are up. Go avionics master off. Turn the mags off. Master and battery switches off. Set the chocks and the boarding steps. And whoopsie daisy, that's not what I meant to do. And we'll open the doors here. And let our humans out. As you can see, I mean, not bad for a freeware airport, right? I mean, this little arrivals terminal. I just think it's the coolest little thing, and I like I said, I enjoy this airport. As a matter of fact, I think this is my first flight to Statia in 2024, and it's just a cool airport. And I've got the Bajan Studios, which gives you the correct trees, which is really pretty nice. But a little couple pink textures there. But I mean, it's just a cool air. See that you got the ATR and the Twin Otter parking and turnaround rules here. Really neat little airport. You got the fire station down here. Everybody likes a good fire station. And you can see the EUX on top of the building here. But beautiful little freeware airport. And right over here is the I Heart EUX sign. So it's just a cool little airport. See the arrivals terminal here. I'd like to come to Statia at some point in my life. But anyway, the point of this video is to show you the sim performance in Sim Update 2 Beta, and it's looking real good. So we'll get back to it with some VR work here in a little bit, but good to be in Sim Update 2 beta and get a feel for it. I hope you guys are doing well. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section below, and we shall talk soon.